Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the series where I get to chat with you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections, finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. Alright then you lot, so here we are once again then for another episode of My Collecting Life. And I'm guessing the question on everybody's lips is, who is the guest on this week's episode? Well, why don't we all find out? But before we do, let's have you listening up and let me run you through the drill. Grab yourselves a cuppa, sit yourselves down, put your feet up, make yourselves comfortable, and let's take a look at some of the collection in a musical montage. Okie dokie then. So once again, we are treated to another fantastic collection where you had a little bit of Zoids, you had some Transformers, you had a fair bit of Godzilla, but I tell you what you did have a lot of. You had a lot of knock knock. Who's there? Doctor Who. Oh, I'll get my coat. It's a pleasure to welcome to the channel for the first time, Gareth from Cosmic Toys. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Stuart. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I disappoint myself with the dad jokes, but there you go. What can you do? What can you do?
I did wonder where that was going.
Yeah, it was going absolutely nowhere, and it went nowhere quickly. But I just want to say a huge thank you for jumping on, mate, and doing this. It does mean a lot. Thank you so much. Um, so when I reached out to you to do this, you said to me, "Oh, I need to check a few episodes first because I got caught out by Salacious Rum." Now, I don't know whether that's a good thing being compared to Salacious Rum, but as you gathered and as you've seen, totally different.
No, I know rum. I think I've been on a couple of these live streams prior,
Yeah.
and
Brave. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I thought that his interview might be a little bit more serious. But of course, it's rum, and nothing serious when it comes to rum, is it?
No, no. Well, it's yeah, it's basically all about you. This interview, so all about you and your collection. I've got 10 questions for you. Runtime roughly about an hour. So if we go over, all good, all good. So when you're ready, we'll crack on.
Okay.
All good. Right. First
Yeah.
question: what toy lines were you into as a kid, and what memories do you have of those toy lines?
Now it's a weird one, is this? As a kid, I was
Okay.
into completely different things to what I'm into now.
Right.
Action figures never came into it as a kid. It was all diecast. It was all
Really?
Matchbox. Yeah, it was all Matchbox and Corgi. A few majorette pieces here and there, but yeah, that was the bulk of what I played with as a kid. As a very young kid, which probably led into the diecast cars, it was Thomas the Tank Engine.
Ooh. Now, my son was very much into Thomas the Tank Engine as a kid. He had all the little die-cast, trains and stuff like that with the painted faces, and that was, yeah, that would I mean, they were good. They were decent. So what was it about the dinky toys, Matchbox, or the that those sort of toys that sort of, like, interested you rather than going out playing with, like, an action figure or anything like that?
I don't know. I think it was just what you got bought when you're a kid. You get
Yeah.
bought stuff at Christmas and birthdays, and I suppose it's one of those things. Family see you playing with a couple of cars. I know what I can get Gareth. He likes cars, and you just end
Right.
up with loads and loads of cars. And the only action figures I did have as a kid was a Transformers Ironhide,
Right.
a Masters of the Universe Roboto and Leech,
Okay.
and a wind-up Postman Pat figure that I can think of. So you
Okay.
wound him up and he would walk.
So when you got those Transformers then, was there not a wanting well, technically they were cars, weren't they, the Autobots?
Yeah,
So
and
was there
Ironhide.
not a wanting on your part for more of those, or were you happy with the toys that you
No, I
had?
was happy. I think because I didn't really watch loads of cartoons on TV. I don't think at the
Right.
time. I did
Okay.
later on, but by
Yeah.
then, I mean, I'm 42 now,
Oh,
so
you old bugger you. Yeah, yeah. Well
yeah.
past it. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, I was going to say that most of the good stuff, Transformers, Thundercats, He-Man, it had already been and gone.
Right. Okay.
As I was growing up. I mean,
Yeah.
things I saw were totally different. We had Raggy Dolls. We
Oh,
had
Jesus. Yeah. Crikey, yeah.
um, I probably caught the back end of Thundercats, to be fair, and I always did like Thundercats. I liked Dungeons and
Right.
Dragons. We
Yeah. Yeah.
only caught bits of that, but of course there were never any toys for that anyway. Not the
Yeah.
cartoon series, not until a couple of years ago. Um, so yeah, I don't know if you remember on ITV, but there was Bangers and Mash, which they were a couple of monkeys, apes.
I vaguely remember I was kind of growing out of that sort of
Yeah,
thing by
yeah, I
by
would
that
imagine you
by that
were.
time. Yeah.
But I did a lot with the Beano and Dandy. I loved
Right.
all that as a kid. So again, not a lot when it comes to toys. So yeah,
Right.
it was
Okay.
just cars.
No, I think it's cool because a lot of the people that I sort of like chat with on this series are roughly around my age,
Yeah,
a generation sort of thing. I mean, you're technically kind of, well, you're a few years younger, but we was into like we had the Star Wars, the GI Joe stroke action force figures. We had Motu, we had what was the other one, Transformers and stuff like that. But then that was complemented by the things that we saw on the TV, Saturday
yeah,
morning TV and after school TV. You had your GI Joe cartoons, your Transformers, Thundercats, and stuff like that. I mean, how pivotal? Well, let's say pivotal, but how much of an influence did you have from Saturday morning TV with what you played with, or was there none at all?
With what I played with, probably none at all. But I did watch a lot of the cartoons.
Yeah,
You just start getting into that sort of stuff. I did watch a lot of the cartoons, but it didn't really play into what I collected
right,
until I turned 10.
right,
And then they did a rerun of one of the Doctor Who stories,
right.
a John Pertwee one, Planet of the Daleks.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's when I wanted toys of what I was watching.
right.
Uh,
Okay, so you got into Doctor Who then around about the age of 10.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I mean, you've got like I say, you've got a big collection of Doctor Who figures. I mean, how easy were they to come by back in the day? Because again, I as a kid, I never ever remember seeing wrestling figures, and I've mentioned that many a times. I don't think I saw too much Doctor Who either, to be honest with you, back
There
in the
wasn't
day.
much. I mean, in hindsight, with what I've learned since, it was massive in the 60s.
Yeah,
It was fairly popular in the 70s, but by the time you get to the 80s, it was on its backside,
right.
and there wasn't loads of merch. Dapol picked up the license, and you got what looked like Star Wars figures, the same kind of size.
Yeah,
There's a load just down here, and to be honest, they're terrible. They're
yeah,
really, really bad. And because they were by Dapol, they only really went into model shops. So they weren't
right.
really in your toy shops.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at the time you'd have had, it wasn't Forbidden Planet then, was it? Was it Odyssey 7?
I God knows. Do you know what?
Yeah.
I never really was into toys until, well,
No?
say into toys. I wasn't into collecting until probably mid-20s when the Power of the Force 2 line came out. That's when I started getting back into doing that again. So I missed about 10, 10, 15 years
Right.
of collecting
Yeah.
toys, but there you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. But I mean, sorry, you were saying about the
No,
Dapple
no,
figures and
it's,
stuff.
it's cool. That's how conversations flow. But yeah, it would have been Odyssey 7 or Forbidden Planet. They
That's it.
used to
Yep.
carry them, but I didn't live anywhere near Forbidden Planet or Odyssey 7 at the time, so I could only get them from a model shop, and it was only a small model shop. He dealt
Yeah.
mostly in cameras, but he also had a little section of models.
Okay.
And I got from there for a present, I think for my 11th birthday. There's one just up here, and I think it'll be in your intro. The TARDIS playset, 25th anniversary
Right.
thing.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
TARDIS, the TARDIS console. You get the Doctor, Mel, Bonnie Langford, everyone's favourite companion, and you
Oh,
got K9 in there as well.
yeah.
And that started me off on the collection of collecting them.
Right.
And even though they were terrible, I still tried to get as many of them as I could.
Fair play. Fair play. And what about Christmases and birthdays? Do you have any sort of like vivid memories of a particular moment at Christmas or a birthday with something that you got and you was like, wow, or you got something that you weren't expecting for a Christmas or birthday?
I have, but strangely enough, it's not. I suppose it links in, but it's not a toy related item.
Right.
This is probably one of your weirdest chats.
We're
um,
about 10 minutes in, and yes, it is.
yes.
But no, it's all good. It's all good.
There was one Christmas. Most of what I watched was on VHS,
Right.
and our top loader VHS recorder by JVC. It had been
JVC.
repaired. The
Yeah.
heads on it, you'll remember this well. The heads on them had been repaired, goodness knows how many times, because they got worn out.
Yep.
And it got to the point where it was happening so frequently, we needed a new recorder. So one Christmas, I opened up this box, and it's just a brown box. And I don't even know what it is. Just a brown box with this black square rectangle on it. What's this? And my uncle was there at the time. He just, what's wrong with him? He's not even excited. Does he not know what it is? I was like, no. He went, it's a new video player. I was like, because for like 3 months at that point, I'd had no video player.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I couldn't watch any of the Doctor Who videos that I had. I couldn't watch
Okay.
any of the. We collected lots of Disney stuff and Tom and Jerry
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I've not been able to watch any of it. I did have a few Thundercats videos and Transformers as well.
Okay.
Turtles was
Yeah.
one of them. I
Turtles,
remember
yeah, because that would have been kicking around about the same time
it
as,
was. It never
you
really
yeah.
gelled with me, but
No? No?
I still had some of the videos. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
weird kid.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, I'd probably grown out of it. Well, I say grown out of it. I was at an age now, when the Turtles come out, that I never really got into it. Do you know what I mean? It was for the younger generation as far as I was concerned. I was,
Mm, mm.
probably 14, 15, so I was like, "Oh, well past that." But yeah, it frightens me how big that line actually is. That's why I've never ever really sort of
Oh, it's massive,
dip my toe into it and stuff like that because because
massive.
you get one, and then you end up with a massive collection, and I haven't got the room for that sort of
Yeah,
thing at the moment. But yeah,
but no, my way into all this stuff was through the
yeah,
stories, and
right.
I got into Doctor Who at a later. Well, for Star Wars, for me, the special edition was the first I saw of it.
Wow,
So
wow,
yeah,
crikey, yeah,
I'd
yeah,
never
yeah.
watched it on even on VHS. I'd never even watched it.
Wow,
I just thought of them that they're these old films that older people are interested in. I'm not interested.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then
Wow,
thanks to the Walkers, Tazos,
yeah.
that led me into Star Wars. And
Well,
wow,
that's really weird, isn't it? I mean, God, how old were you then when the Star Wars special editions come out?
I would have been about 14.
Wow,
Yeah, I would have
wow,
been about
that's
14.
that's mad.
Mm.
That's mad. Just want to go back onto the Christmases and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Isn't it
yeah.
weird when you get to the age where your parents stop buying you toys for Christmas and they start buying you electrical
Yes,
goods?
yeah.
Like, I
Well,
remember the
the
first
thing
time I
is, at
got,
the
like, a
time, I
mini
still had
TV.
piles of other stuff.
Yeah,
There was still piles of other toys.
yeah.
It was like, oh, what would it have been then? It would have been sort of like the LCD games by Tomy,
Okay, yeah, that's it, yeah,
Shark Attack, and it was a
yeah,
Space Invaders like one, a Turbo
yeah,
Racer. Those were amazing, and I can't remember the name of it, and I should do. It's my business to know this kind of thing, but it's sort of like the big long, like a caterpillar truck with the switches on the top that you would push one to make it go forward and pull another one to go back, and
not
it
a
would go
tack track,
over
is it? Is it a
rocks.
tack track?
It could be. It could be. I don't know
Big
why.
track?
I don't know the
Big
name
track?
of it. It's not Big Track. No, that's the one you
Not big track.
programmed on the back. I never had a Big Track.
Right.
Have
Okay. Yeah,
since.
I'm not too sure what that one is. I'm not too sure what that one is, but I don't know. It's like really weird. It was like one year I was getting like toys as main presents, like big toys and stuff like that. The following year it was like a little mini portable TV. Then the following year it was like a video recorder, and I was like, What's going on here? Hang on, when did I become an adult sort of thing? Do you know what I mean? I was like, bit disappointed, but not to worry. It was all good. It was all good. What was your favorite toy line as a kid and why?
As I said, as a kid, it would have been probably Matchbox over Corgi.
Yeah. I mean, what was
Although
it? I mean, apart from the name, what
I
was the
don't
difference
know.
between Matchbox cars and Corgi cars? Apart from the name, obviously.
Probably not a lot. I think at the time, with the small 1/64 scale cars, Matchbox tended to be metal even underneath, whereas Corgi were plastic.
Right. Okay.
Um, but yeah, I don't
So
think there was really a difference between them.
would that have made the Matchbox cars more expensive than the Corgi cars, or not really?
Possibly. But that said, I don't think they were from memory as a kid.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember seeing like a card, they started putting them on cards, but they
Yeah.
were originally in the boxes. And
Yeah.
you used to see those everywhere. They were in the supermarkets, they were on the market stalls, they were kind of everywhere. Whereas Corgi, you didn't see quite as many smaller ones. You saw more larger ones
Right.
of the Corgis. So
Okay.
maybe they focus more on that.
Fair dues. Fair dues.
Yeah,
I'm guessing your Matchbox and your Corgi cars were your favourite up until the point of Doctor Who.
pretty much. There will have been a time in between where it went to McDonald toys.
Really?
Yeah, and that might have even
Wow.
been what led me into figures, to be fair.
Okay.
'Cause we went through the thing. I remember the first one I got was one of the changeables, which they're
Right.
the ones that were like transforming burgers, Big Mac,
Yeah. Yeah.
fries, and to this day, I still think they're the best transfer McDonald toys. Like they should be making them, not the rubbish that they're making that Minecraft. God.
You leave Minecraft alone. Nothing wrong with Minecraft. I don't mind a bit of Minecraft. The game, that is. I'm not too sure about the toys, but there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, with your Corgis and your Matchbox and your Doctor Who's and stuff like that, and your McDonald's, what was it that stood out for you with those?
I don't even know.
No?
Genuinely do not know. It's I mean, I used to like cars what I'd see out on the street.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of I think a lot of kids my age at the time, they wanted Ferraris, they wanted
Yeah.
Porsches. And don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I had some, but I always wanted cars that the neighbours had
Right.
and
Okay.
what your uncles had and things like that. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I mean, what I tend to do would put two down on the floor, put my thumb on the top, and kind of flick them, and then you
Yeah.
just see which one went the fastest. And it's like that's probably more down to your thumbs than it is the car.
Yeah. 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 And another thing as well, with the modern day figures and stuff like that, action figures, you get a lot of reuse and stuff like that, body parts and the likes. Was that the same with the
Yes.
cars? Did you get a lot of reuse with the cars?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably still using similar molds now to what they used back then. Certainly, you look at Hot Wheels now. Look at the Hot Wheels Batmobile. How many different colours and styles of that have we had? Yeah, they do repurpose them. I do
Yeah.
remember having it was like a Volvo estate, and I had it in red, silver, and I think gold as a kid. Don't know why. No idea why.
But do you know the funny thing is what we noticed back then, well, what I noticed now is that there's a lot of bemoaning about having reuse of figures and stuff like that and certain parts for different toys. There's a lot of reuse. I mean, you look at the Motu figures, that was generally all the same sort of mold, wasn't it? Just a
Yes,
different
yes,
head
it was.
sculpt with a
Yeah.
different figure in a different color, you know, and so it's always been the case where toy companies have done a lot of reuse. Why is it that we're now moaning about it more than what we ever did when we were younger? Because it was still the same thing back then.
I wonder if it's the price that's got something to do with it.
You reckon?
I think a lot of customers, I won't say collectors, but a lot of
Yeah,
customers for toys, they see these price tags that we have on toys now, and back when they were coming out with new molds, at least the manufacturer could say it's like, well, it costs so much to make in research and development to make this.
yeah,
Well, if they're making the same, just changing the color to make a new toy, it's like, well, why is that still the same price then, and why is that still the same price? It's where my mind goes. I don't know about other people.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's a tough one, but I
yeah,
just find I guess there's more social media. People have
yeah.
the
People
power to vent their
people like
feelings
to
and their
complain.
opinions more, don't they, and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I guess that's what that's.
people like to complain.
Well, they do, they do indeed, absolutely. When did you stop playing with your toys, and when did you start becoming a collector?
It's a good question.
Thank you. I write
No,
these myself.
yeah. No, it's a good question because I don't know when that was because I didn't. Apart from those transforming ones, I didn't play
Yeah.
with the McDonald toys. It was just a case of every week you got one, so I collected them. And then obviously with Doctor Who, I didn't really play with them, but I collected them. So I think it was a very, very early age. It was probably when I got out of cars and
Yeah.
into other things. So yeah,
Wow.
probably like 9 or 10 years old.
That is
I
crazy.
know.
I mean, so with your Doctor Who figures then, what did you do with them? You just collected them and then what? Put them on a shelf?
Put them on a
Or
shelf as a rule. As a rule of thumb, the figure would go on the shelf in front of the video that character was from or where it first appeared.
Really?
Yeah,
That's mad.
isn't it?
That's and you weren't tempted to play with them at all?
Um, no, 'cause they were really bad toys.
Really?
Those Dapple figures were really
Oh,
bad
okay, yeah,
toys.
yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
were. I mean, the Dalek, you pulled it back and it'd go forward maybe 2 inches.
yeah. Wow.
They did them as pullbacks, but they because they're
Okay.
so tall, they
Yep.
just kind of wobble
Oh, wow.
because the center of, in looking at now, it would have been the center of mass. Just wasn't right for it.
So, so after your Doctor Who toy line, that you got into your toys, where did you go from there then? Because obviously you've got a massive collection now, and as we've seen in your intro and stuff like that. So where did that come from? What was the thought process behind that?
Star
Because one day
Wars.
you just start with Star Wars again, was it? That's
Yeah,
it. Blame Star
yeah,
Wars.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was yeah, it was Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, the way you'll remember Star Wars as being everywhere in the late 70s and early 80s,
It
that's
was.
how
Yeah.
I remember it from the special edition.
Right.
It's and I know older generations do not like the special editions, and it's not
Mm.
looked on
It.
fondly.
I can see why he did it. I can see why he
Mhm.
did it. I think I think sometimes less is more. He
I
wanted to
agree.
incorporate because he was never happy with the original Cantina scene. He always said that he wasn't happy with that. The budget was just, he didn't have the budget for it. So he went back and changed a few things there. I kind of wish he had left the Cantina alone because I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The way he's filmed it and it's edited, I thought it looked absolutely fine the way it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there were some bits that added to it, and I thought, yeah, okay, clean it up. That's not an issue. Make it to
Oh,
today's
clean it
standard
up.
for viewing with cleaning
It
it up and
needed
stuff like
cleaning.
that. It did, but I don't think it needed a lot of the scenes. I don't think it needed the Jabba the Hutt scene at the docking bay because when they first did that, it didn't look right. But then
No.
you had the technology then because before after he did the special editions, he then went on to do the
Prequels.
prequels, didn't he?
Yeah.
So and that was all pretty much CGI, wasn't it? So
Yeah. Yeah. But
so
no,
Star Wars was the catalyst for your collecting then, as you say.
essentially, yeah. I think the
Yeah.
Jabba the Hutt thing with in a new in Star Wars. I won't say
Yeah,
new
yeah.
in Star Wars. I think that was just to try and tie it closer to make it mesh more with Return of the Jedi. That's purely why he did that.
Yeah, well, he originally filmed it, didn't he? Because he had the guy with the Jabba at the time
A
when
bloke.
he filmed it was a human
Yeah,
character. So it was only when Return of the Jedi come out that it was this big, grotesque looking creature, which was puppeteered very well. And I thought that they did fantastic with that. I think not seeing him in Star Wars wasn't a bad thing because you're kind of thinking, who the hell is this Jabba the Hutt? Who is
mhm,
Jabba the Hutt?
mhm.
In Empire Strikes Back, he's mentioned, I've got to pay back Jabba the Hutt. Who is this guy?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
the
that
suspense is
bounty
there.
hunter we ran into on Ord Mantell.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the suspense is there, and it's the not knowing that keeps your interest alive. And then you see him in Return of the Jedi, and you think, "Wow, what a fantastic!" So I don't
Mhm.
think it was needed. To be fair, but there you
No,
go.
I agree. I think that it could have done without that scene. There's certain elements of the special edition that I do prefer over the original cut. I think seeing
Yeah,
more X-wings at the end
yeah,
going in, it's still only a ragtag bunch. It's not like it's
yeah,
an entire fleet, but
yeah. But like I say,
it's more than a handful.
adding things like that, it adds to the dynamic of the film. It
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily change the story.
it
Whereas,
does. Yeah, but the
I
Jabba
mean,
scene does.
yeah, it doesn't because Hans already had that same conversation with Greedo
Mhm.
in a couple of scenes previous to that in the cantina where he shoots him. Then he's repeating himself and saying the same thing to Jabba. So anyway, for me,
Mhm.
there was no point.
Get that.
So
Yeah.
when it comes to collecting, then I take it after the Star Wars, you were straight into the getting the Star Wars figures. Then it just went from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Strangely enough, I started collecting them before I saw the films.
Okay, that was the Power of the Force 2 figures, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mentioned the Tazos earlier that came in Walker's Crisps.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, started picking those up, and because I had so many of them, I got the folder that you put them in. Well, that
Oh
comes,
God, I remember the folder.
yeah,
Gee whiz, wow. Yeah,
and
yeah.
it comes with sort of like a very brief rundown of the story, doesn't it, of the trilogy?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was my first exposure to the original trilogy. So
Wow.
I saw that, I read that, and because my mum then sees me collecting in her mind, oh, Gareth's collecting Star Wars just because he's got this book. Gareth collects
Yeah.
Star Wars. It's like,
Wow.
okay, birthday's round the corner, and I opened up a load of Star Wars stuff on my birthday, and I'm too polite to say, "What's all this?" I was like, "Oh yeah, thank you." Oh yeah, I was like, "Oh, that's C-3PO. I kind of recognize him from the Tazo."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no,
And
that's cool though.
because there'd kind of been an investment there, I was like, "Okay, I'll learn a little bit more about this."
Yeah.
And I picked up in W.H. Smith's Jedi Academy, the Academic trilogy as a hardback book.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so that's Luke looking for and training Jedi.
Okay.
And I thoroughly loved it. So I actually read those books,
Yeah.
one of the sequels to Star Wars, without seeing the
Yeah.
films. And then I saw the
Wow.
films when
Okay.
they brought them out on VHS in, I think it would have been October. So I probably got them for Christmas.
Wow.
And by then I had loads of Star Wars stuff before even seeing the films.
But you couldn't sort of like piece the characters together because I know you've seen them in the Tazos, you get like a brief description and
Yeah, yeah.
stuff like that. God, blimey.
I mean,
It must
by
have been
then I
weird
would
to
have
have.
picked up things
Yeah.
like the storybook and
Yeah. Yeah. So you had a rough
and
idea who was
yeah, and
who.
other things. So I'd have had a very good idea of what the story overall was,
Yeah.
not actually seen it.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
so yeah,
Interesting.
when the prequels came around, then I suppose to my mind's eye at the time, those would have been my Star Wars
Yeah. Yeah.
because I
Good.
got
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see them as they came out,
Yeah.
and I did the comic adaptations, I did the novels, I had the soundtracks, and
Yeah.
you know everything that you probably remember about Star Wars from when you were a kid.
To be
That's
fair,
what I was doing.
I was a bit too young to remember Star Wars when it was released in
Okay.
'77. I was only 4 years old.
Oh,
Um,
okay, yeah.
um, so my first experience with Star Wars toys was around 1980 when The Empire Strikes Back
Mhm.
was released. So I had a Tie Fighter, Darth Vader's Tie Fighter, and the X-wing for Christmas. And then it went from there, So, and then, not, of course, 1983, Return of the Jedi. That was the first film I remember seeing at the cinema because, again, my dad said he took me to see Empire Strikes Back. I couldn't remember any of it. I could not remember any of it. So, so Return of the Jedi was my first experience. But uh, yeah, it was back then. It was so different with toys. You had the advertising for the toys, and everything was Star Wars, your lunchbox, your pencil case, your bed sheets, your curtains, your wallpaper, pajamas, everything was his slippers,
Yeah.
everything was Star Wars at that time. And it was the same with certain other toy lines as well. They were all out for the PR, and the PR back then was just pushing these toy lines and making as much merchandise as possible to enhance their, selling capabilities, and it worked because kids were buying it. It was the same with Transformers, GI Joe, Mask, My Little Pony, which I'm a big fan of apparently. But yeah, even that you
I'm
had
looking
like a
forward
lot
to
of.
seeing the tattoo.
Yeah, yeah, don't get me started on that. But yeah, it's all good. But these days they don't seem to do that, do they? They don't
No,
seem to push the toy lines as much as they used to.
I attribute that to things being done with just like this. You know,
Yeah,
if there's a new kids show, it's not shown on TV, it's on Netflix. The whole season drops, the kids watch it. Yeah, this is brilliant. This is fantastic.
yeah,
Season's finished. We're done. Something else now.
yeah.
There's no longevity to anything because it's just done with.
No, that's true. That's true. And I mean, I mean, they say stuff on Disney Plus. It's where you've got to wait a week for it to come out and stuff like that. And I don't mind that. It's what we were used to as
Yeah,
kids. You had to wait a week. I mean,
I
back
have
then you
no
had to
problem
wait
with
3
that.
years before the films come out. You
Yeah,
know,
I've
Star
no
Wars,
problem
then
with
after that, 3 years later, Empire Strikes Back, 3 years later, it was Return of the Jedi. Now they're just knocking them out, and it's just
that.
do you know what I mean?
I
I don't
I
know,
have
it's
more of a problem with it being 8 or 12 episodes.
yeah,
It's like, to me, a season or a series of something is 24 episodes.
yeah,
So
yeah.
why are we getting 6 or 8 episodes of
It
whatever the
costs,
latest
is it
Star Wars is? It's
cost,
ridiculous. Yeah,
budget?
they're spending far too much money on these things. It's
See,
all these films that people are seeing as failures. It's because they cost too much to make in the first place.
yeah, but the thing is, if you're getting a big budget for doing an 8-part TV series, and that's practically the same amount of money you're gonna spend on a movie, when you make a movie, you're gonna be wanting to spend more money because you think, "Well, if that's
Mhm.
gonna be an 8-part series, I wanna make a movie with massive budgets." And the thing is now, as we know, as soon as the movie's out at the theater, a few months later, it's gonna be on a streaming service.
But they're usually advertising it on Blu-ray while it's hitting the cinema.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
people aren't
come
gonna
out of
yeah.
having seen it, and then you can pre-order the Blu-rays. No, it should be a year.
Well, that's what we used to have to wait, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
used to be a year, and then it used to be another 6 to 12 months after that before it would hit Sky,
Yep.
and then it'd be another 6 to 12 months before you got it on TV.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
I think that made these things valuable.
Yeah, it did because it made people it's just a matter of patience, wasn't it? Now it's just a matter of money. They just want the big wongers and stuff like that, and that's all they're worried about. So moving on with the questions, what do you currently collect, and do you have a focus on any particular character or toy line?
Mm, okay.
Oh,
Currently collect.
yeah,
I flip between things, which you probably could tell from those pictures that I sent
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Um, so I do seem to have dropped off Star Wars quite a bit recently.
Right.
I
Okay. Yep.
think
Yep.
a lot of people have done. Um, Doctor Who, I still pick up anything that's new related to the classic series. I don't get anything from the modern series, though. I'm not really interested in it. I like.
So when you say classic series, what sort of timeline are you talking?
So it started in '63 and
Yep.
it ran pretty much non-stop until 1989.
Right, and that's what
Um,
you collect up to 89.
I collect up to 96 because I feel the
Right,
Paul McGann TV movie is more like the classic series than it is the new series.
right. Okay, so who was after Paul McGann? Because I've got to admit, I'm not a big Doctor Who fan.
When it came back in 2005, it was Christopher Eccleston.
That's yep, okay,
Yeah,
yep,
and then David Tennant, Matt Smith,
yep,
and none of those actors played the Doctor bad.
yeah,
They are very good. My favorite out of those is Matt Smith, and I think he's a very doctory doctor. But they didn't all have great scripts, shall we say?
So the writing from 1989, it was 1989, wasn't it?
It finished in '89.
It finished in 89. So
That's
the
what it
story, so the writing after 1989 wasn't as good as the previous series
Well,
then?
there's some. I, I think there's over 700 stories from '63 to '89. So you're
Yeah,
gonna get some that aren't as good as others.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously, yeah, it's
yeah,
always going to be a bit of a mixed bag. But even the poor ones felt like you were still watching Doctor Who.
right.
Whereas I don't feel like the modern series always feels like that.
Do you think it's because? Do you feel that they would have had that problem with Doctor Who if they hadn't have stopped it in 1989 and they would have carried on going through with it?
Probably, yeah,
Yeah,
probably. I think if you watch the '89 Doctor Who after watching the '63 Doctor Who, you'll notice a big difference. So
yeah,
it always did change, but it morphed slowly over
yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah,
So the audience would have grown with it and come back and forth to it and everything. Whereas now you've taken a big break, you've come back, it's bombastic, it's bold, and like so many things at the moment, the current series is more focused on educating the audience in relation to social politics than it is on telling a good sci-fi story.
Well, I've got a simple answer to that. I've got a simple answer to that. Stop bloody doing that and just concentrate on decent storylines.
Yeah, yeah,
We don't want to be educated in modern day politics or social issues. We
no,
just want a decent story. All right.
yeah.
There you go. Simple.
I
Done.
think clever writers were always able to weave certain
Yes.
kinds of education
Yeah, of
into
course. Yeah.
storytelling,
But it was
but they're
subtly
not
done, though.
able to
It was
do that now.
subtle. It was
Yeah,
subtle.
exactly. Yeah, they're not
You
able
know,
to do it now.
yeah. Yeah. So, you know, a good person to look at would be George Lucas because
Mm,
he wrote obviously he wrote Star Wars and he put in political issues,
of
but
course he
it
did.
was done so subtly, it fitted in with what the story he was trying to tell. So you wouldn't see, I mean, as a kid, I wouldn't have noticed that. I just watched it because I thought, what a great story, great
Mhm.
action, and great characters and stuff like that. I never, you know, it never once looked at that film and thought, "Oh, that reminds me of this, and that reminds me of that, and that reminds me of this." These days, they just make it so blatantly obvious that's
Yeah.
what they're trying to push, and it's wrong. And that's why and they wonder why people are giving up on movies and going to the theatre and just these films are bombing and TV series are bombing.
Mhm. Yeah.
They just don't seem to learn. It just keeps churning out the same agenda pushing shite,
Yeah.
in my
Every
opinion.
every demographic has to be represented in every 5 minutes worth of programming, and it's ridiculous.
It doesn't. It
Yeah,
doesn't. And if
it's
you
ridiculous.
don't like that,
I,
sorry,
I
but
never looked at Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, the Doctor, or any other character and thought, "That's me."
yeah.
That, they're not me. They're not me. They're Luke. They're Han. They're not me. I wish I could be them, but
Yeah.
I am not them.
I I think the thing about good storytelling is it should be able to, um people should be able to identify it regardless. Identify what am I trying to say? They should be able to
And
relate to it, should I say. They should be able to
yeah,
relate to it regardless of gender.
yeah,
Because, you know, look at Anakin Skywalker. His story arc was a young kid with a goal to falling into temptation, to turning to evil, to being have redemption and stuff like that.
yeah.
You know, it could happen to people in life. They could go down the wrong path and stuff like that. And do you know what I mean?
It's got
I
nothing to
think that
do with him being a straight white male.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it could be anybody.
nothing
Do
to
you know
do
what I
with
mean?
that.
It
Yeah,
wasn't. But the thing is, though, you know, they say Star Wars fans are racist. Darth Vader was in a black suit, the best villain ever. He was
voiced by a
voiced
black
by
man.
probably exactly, yeah, James Earl Jones, who was an extraordinarily talented actor, and what a legend he was. And you know, and look at all the outpouring of love that he received when he passed away.
Well,
It
everyone's
just doesn't make
favorite,
sense.
most people's favorite Star Wars film of the original trilogy is The Empire Strikes Back, the one that introduces a black character.
Yeah,
You know, nobody looked at that film and thought, "Oh, there's a black man in that. I'm not going to watch it."
no, he was a great character. Again,
It was,
he was a scoundrel.
yeah,
And I thought, oh, you what a, you know, he stitched them up. He stitched Han up, he stitched Leia up, and Chewie. And I thought, oh, but then he sort of like
he redeems
he had
himself.
well, he did, but he had to do that. He was in a situation where he could either lose his city and the people that he was, like, looking
Yeah,
after. Do you know what I mean? So I thought he was a great character, and then
he
he was a
is.
general.
Yeah,
You know, what a great
he is
character.
a great character.
Yeah, it
Good
just
writing.
annoys me with some of today's people, and but there you go. We're not talking about that. We just we'll move on. Do you have a sentimental or prized piece within your collection?
Yeah, but then we'll go back to the previous question that I didn't finish answering. Prized piece. You're gonna love this one.
Go on in.
I've got the '60s Dalek play suit.
So what?
A Dalek
Playsuit. You dress
play.
up as a Dalek.
No, I wouldn't be able to get my fat belly into it.
What?
It's about
Wow.
so tall.
Yeah.
You can't see, but yeah, it's for a kid. So imagine a 6-year old, 5 or 6 year old kid inside this PVC suit that goes on over the shoulders, and then a cardboard cylinder around the neck with holes for eyes, and then a plastic dome on top.
Wow. Where did you get that from?
Vectis, strangely enough.
Oh, wow. So you bid on that as an auction?
I bid on that as an auction, yeah. I never thought I'd ever see one, let alone own one.
That's mad. I've never seen one. Never
Yeah,
seen one.
and
That's mental.
it doesn't look like it's ever been used, and it's still in its original box.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. Wow. And when did you pick that up? How long ago did you pick that up?
about 2 years ago. So
Interesting,
it's
man. That's weird.
it's
Yeah.
relatively recent to the collection, and I've done nothing
Yeah.
with it. How do you display something like
Well,
that?
yeah, that's it. Yeah. God damn.
And
God
we
damn.
do have cats, so I dread, you
Oh,
know.
yeah. God, yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. So that's a prize piece then. Do you have a sentimental piece, something that you've had from your childhood or something that someone's given to you that you thought, "Oh, yeah,
I don't think I've got anything left from my childhood.
okay."
Mm.
Does
The
that does that does
closest
that
thing,
bother you or not really?
I'd like to have something from my
Yeah.
childhood, but
Yeah.
obviously it's one of those things you can't do anything about it now. Everything's gone.
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
picking up pieces that I had as a kid, which I think
Yeah.
we all do that, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I did years ago. I had all of the Target novelizations, which they're the novelizations of the Doctor Who
Yeah.
serials,
Okay.
and I wrote my name on the inside cover of all of them.
Right.
And then when I didn't grow out of it, but when I decided I didn't want the books anymore, I sold those at the car boot sale. And then several years later, I decided I wanted to try and get them back again. And
Right.
I did buy a bundle of about 5 from someone in London off eBay. And when they turned up, they had my name on the inside cover.
They were the same ones. That is mental. What are the
Isn't it?
chances?
Isn't
What
it?
are the
Someone had
chances?
bought them off me. They must have sold them on eBay. And then I at least bought them back off that same person.
That's
Unless they've
mad.
traded more hands. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's mad. That is mad. Wow.
absolutely insane. So I'm going to keep
Wow.
hold of those because
Yeah, I would.
I always
God.
think they were meant to come back to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's mental. I've never heard anything like that before. That's insane. So you wanna carry on and answer the question
Well,
previous to that? 'Cause and the reason I moved on is 'cause we're getting a little bit
I
political
know,
and
I know, I know, I know.
turning
You're
the
gonna have to
tone.
edit it all out. Nearest thing to a sentimental one, though,
Yep.
before we move on.
Okay.
Doctor
Oh, hang
Who
on.
Trump card game,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
that means a lot to me because I received that as a gift from.
Yeah.
I think you probably know him as well, Mr. Lobot.
I know Lobot. Yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Lobot. Yeah, what a
he's
lovely
an
guy.
absolute legend, and he did send me that, and the cards in there. It's a full set, all complete, and what a lovely thing for him to do.
Yeah.
Apparently, he
Yeah.
realised that he had two, so he sent the other set to me.
Yeah.
So I've mentioned that a couple of times on different streams, but thank you very much, Lobot.
No, 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 not a
Um,
problem at all. I mean, I
yeah,
met Lobot at, NEC last year, last April, so it was over a year ago that we bumped
yeah,
into each other. Yeah, yeah.
I badgered him to attend the NEC that year. And
Okay.
I agreed that we would meet up the night before, so we could all have a chat and everything. And that's why he went.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah,
So
fair enough.
I tried working on him for this year as well. So it might have to be September now.
Yeah. No,
But
fair
yeah,
fair
awesome
dues,
chat.
fair dues.
Awesome chat. Um, so the previous question was, go on, just remind me.
What are you currently collecting? Or do you have a figure focus?
Figure Focus, that's the one. Grand Admiral Thrawn from Star Wars.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
What is it with Grand Admiral Thrawn then that,
It's just such a well written character, and
yeah,
he's so different from Darth Vader.
yeah,
You know, Darth Vader's more about the brute force, whereas Grand Admiral Thrawn, he's about the intellect and using the enemy's strength against them. You know, he's a really,
yeah,
really good strategist, and I don't know. I love that trilogy of books: The Heir to the Empire, Dark Force
yeah.
Rising, and Last Command.
That would
Love them.
do you I mean, a lot of people say that should have been the
Yep,
trilogy after
yep.
Return of the Jedi.
It is the trilogy after.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
I've
is
never
the
read the
Fellowship of
books.
the Ring.
I've got one of the books, the first one. I've not read it. I've heard there's a big difference from how Thrawn is portrayed in the written novels as to how he is in the animated series and Ahsoka.
Mm, yeah.
What is the difference? Because like I say, I've not read the book, so I wouldn't know.
Well, do you not think in Ahsoka is a bit stupid?
Again, I I don't know because I
No,
liked him in Rebels. I thought
he's
he was all right in Rebels animated series. Some of the best bloody writing styles I've done for a while.
yeah,
But I've
yeah.
not read the book, so I don't know. I've got nothing to compare him to apart from Rebels. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
okay, fair enough. Now,
So
in the books, he's not a villain. He's very much an antagonist for our heroes, but he's not a villain. He's not out there to just try and get power.
right,
Um, you later find out that he's aware of a threat to the galaxy, and
yeah,
the reason he joined the Empire was to get the Empire to be strong enough to be able to fight this threat at a later date.
yeah,
And that's why he wants to take out the rebellion, because they've destroyed his plan to protect everyone from this greater threat. So he needs to wipe them out in order to rebuild the Empire to fight this threat.
right, okay,
But you don't find that out until much later. But he's just not a villain. He's not a bad guy. The only time he actually really punishes someone is when they slip up really badly, not just because they're late for work or something like that.
yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah,
and then you get to Rebels, and he's very much a villain. You know, there is an evil side to Thrawn in that. So I didn't particularly like that aspect of him in Rebels.
right,
But I didn't mind it. I saw it's an adaptation, so I
yeah,
can live with it.
yeah,
And the actor that they've got to do the voice and to play him in live action, Lars Mikkelsen, isn't it? He's
that's
great.
it, yeah,
Yeah, no problem with him whatsoever. I think he looks the part and he plays the part well. But
just the writing,
it's the writing. He's a bit slow. You know, he recognizes Ahsoka. He believes that she's the apprentice of Anakin, also Vader, and knows that she's going to be a threat to him, and still underestimates her all the way through it. Even to the point of saying, "We will not underestimate the Jedi anymore. Oh, they're over there. Send 2 TIE fighters. You've got a hangar full of them." So you still underestimate them, and those 2 TIE fighters get taken out very quickly.
right.
It's not Thrawn. They
I'm
need
gonna have
an
to read the
intelligent
books. I'm
writer
gonna have
to
to read
write
the
it.
books. Yeah, I'm gonna
And
have to read the books.
Filoni's not. He's a brilliant fanboy, and he's
Yeah.
good at giving the fans what he thinks the fans want. But he's not an intelligent writer, I don't think.
I don't think he did too badly when it come to the Clone Wars. I thought he did well with the Clone Wars, but then again, he did have a bit of help from George Lucas,
He
didn't he?
did,
Because they were
yes.
working on it together. So that's probably why that is. But even then, I thought the season 7 of Clone Wars that he did with Disney, other than the first couple of episodes, I thought it wasn't too bad. I did quite like that storyline of Mandalore, Maul, you
I
know,
enjoyed that.
and that was good. So
Mm.
and yeah,
But weren't
yeah,
they written prior? It was an unfinished season, wasn't it? Because the Bad
so
Batch were the first couple of episodes.
season 6 was cancelled halfway through
Mhm.
because Disney wanted it to stop and they
That's right.
wanted to focus on Rebels. So I think there was only so many episodes in season 6. I don't know. I think Dave Filoni always wanted Ahsoka to lead a battalion of
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
what's it? Because I remember him sitting there on a chat show and she was there, Ashley Eckstein, and he was talking to her and saying this was what was going to happen and this is what I wanted to happen, and she was practically in tears. I no, I want to, you know. And so, but yeah, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. But anyway, I mean, I like Thrawn as a character. I think he's a decent character. I just need to read the books, and to do that, I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. And I don't
Yeah.
know. There you are. There you are. Moving on swiftly. Do you have a Grail piece you are after? And when I say Grail piece, I say it every week. I don't mean the most expensive thing in the world. It could be something that you saw the other weekend at the NEC Toy Fair. You thought, I won't get it. Then you thought, I will, went to get it, and it had gone, and you've not seen it since, or something along those lines.
Well, I used to answer this question as a Dalek playsuit,
Well, you've got
and
that
I
now.
managed to get that. So I've been
Yeah.
trying to think what the new one is, and there was actually one at the NEC, and it's the Shogun Warriors Godzilla.
Right. Okay.
But I wasn't willing to stump up 800 quid for it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Actually, in fact, any scene was a
it
great
was.
toy
It
fair
really,
to see your Grail pieces. I saw my Grail piece as well. It was
yeah.
a vintage Kenner A wing, and I wasn't allowed to spend.
Oh yeah,
I wasn't allowed to spend the money on that. It was a droids one as well, fully boxed as well. Very
nice,
nice. Yeah, I wasn't
nice.
allowed. No, I'd say I wasn't allowed. If my wife ever watches this, I'll be in the doghouse. I chose not to get it for grown up reasons. We're
Yeah,
going away this.
you like keeping your testicles on your person and not in a jar.
Well, yes, yes. I also like a nice cozy warm bed and not being stuck in a cardboard box on a street corner somewhere. So there's
Yeah.
that to think about as well. But yeah. Okay, cool. Next question. How did you get into becoming an owner of your own toy shop?
That's what I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know when the careers advisor comes round at school
Mm.
and they ask you what you want,
Yep.
she, this always stands out in my mind's eye. She went round and she asked everyone, and she's pointing. And I want to be a footballer. I want to be a taxi driver. Someone said. I want to be a policeman. I want to be an astronaut. And she pointed at me, and I said, I want to have my own toy shop. And then she went over to the next person, and she came back, and she went, the world will be your oyster. And then she went on, oh, I got bullied for weeks for that.
But just out of curiosity, out of curiosity, what age was that? And why at that age had you decided that's what you wanted to do?
I don't know, would it been about 14? 14 or 15, I think
Oh,
it would have been.
wow. Wow.
Yeah, I think it would have been about then.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because I know I'd get all the cool collectible toys.
So you were, I mean, because you know, you said that you were sort of like collecting toys at that age anyway. You weren't really playing with them and stuff like that. So did that really help you make your decision then about what you wanted to do? So you knew from a young age, and I'm
Yeah,
guessing from that moment on, that is something that you obviously had worked to and worked
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
up to
I think
that point. I mean, wow.
I think I was 22 when I finally opened the shop. So it wasn't like it happened overnight.
No, these
And
things
prior
never
to that,
do.
I'd been doing the local market and car boot sale for about 10 years,
Yeah,
as a dealer of mostly Star Wars, but also like your Batman figures, your Spider-Man figures, and whatever other toys I could pick up. And there was a good some portion of diecast. The diecast stuff did really well on the markets. Actually, I can't shift it in the shop.
yeah, weird.
Go figure.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's weird. I just find that incredible that I mean, of all the things that you could have that was said that day about what you wanted to be to the kids. I wonder how many other kids have actually gone on and become the things that they wanted to be at the age of, when they said what they wanted to be, like a footballer or a policeman
well, one of
and
the
stuff like that.
rugby player, one said rugby player, and he went on to play for Bradford Bulls, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was yeah. He was a nice chap.
Well, no, but I mean, I seriously take my hat off to you. I mean,
Thank you.
obviously you've got to go through like do the business courses and stuff like that because after all, it is a business. No, you're
No,
not selling yourself.
I know, I
All right.
know.
Wow.
No, I always knew what I wanted. I worked towards it, and as soon as I could afford to do it, I did. Well, I did it before I could really afford to. It was a long time before I started making any money out of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's very much a labour of love, but it was one of those things that once you'd finally done it, you either admit defeat or you keep going. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't admit defeat.
So what was that feeling like the first day you picked your keys up to your toy store, opened the door, went in, and go, "Get the
So
cigar,
nervous.
the champagne. This is mine." I mean, that must have been some feeling.
Yeah. No, it was so nervous. It was uh, it was 2 weeks from getting the keys to opening the doors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and at the time, it was mostly Star Wars. Well, it was my collection that I opened the shop with,
Right.
which at the time I had a pretty good collection because I've been collecting for so long. So it was everything modern Star Wars from Power of the Force 2 all the way through to Revenge of the Sith. So you can imagine that's a lot of carded figures.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and if I could pick up variants, there were variants.
yeah,
Um, the Doctor Who, all of my Doctor Who stuff went in there. I I didn't collect them, but I read comics and I had a lot of graphic novels. They all went in there. Everything that I collected, I cleared out my. I was spoilt rotten. I had 2 bedrooms full of stuff at home, and both of those rooms went into the shop, and I didn't keep a single item. That's why I've got nothing left from my childhood
fair play. Yeah,
because I thought I either do this and it's everything,
yeah,
or if I keep the bits I like, that's all of it.
yeah. Okay,
So
fair enough.
it
Yeah,
had
yeah,
to be everything, and
yeah,
yeah, there were a few things that I bought specifically to sell, and I had my car boot, well, my market stock, and it it started off quite well until my accountant told me everything that I needed to be doing.
right. Okay.
And then it was like, oh, so I was literally learning on the job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, you're still going strong though. I
still
mean,
going,
obviously, you're
still going.
still going strong. Well, that's
Yeah,
good stuff. Good
yeah, yeah.
stuff.
COVID was
We're
the
coming
best
to the
time.
top of the hour. Sorry, mate. What was that?
COVID was the best time. I want another lockdown. I'm desperate for another lockdown.
No, 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 no. You can pack that up. Pack that up. We've got another 3 questions for you. We're coming to the top of the
Okay.
hour, so we'll crack on. What was the inspiration for you to start your own YouTube channel? And I, was that something to do with the fact that you had your shop and it was a good way to promote your shop?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
But I hate the sound of my voice played back, and I think a lot of people do.
yeah,
And you look back at my earliest videos, you don't see me. You just see my hands in front of the camera, and
yeah,
the cameras. Yeah. I didn't want myself on screen, so yes, it was to promote the shop,
yeah,
but I kept putting it off and putting it off and put it off. And then a certain someone recommended that I do it and that I'll love it and this, that, and the other. So I did, and it just went from there. It just went
fair
from there. It was
play,
like
fair
I,
play.
I, I kept thinking, what can I offer? Because I think if you do it, I feel you've got to do it regular. You
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
just
yeah,
drop
yeah.
a video here and there. You've got to do it regular. And it took me a while to figure out that the one thing that I can show people every week is what's coming new. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean, crikey, I mean,
literally,
they work well together, your toy store and your YouTube
yeah.
channel.
So
It's a
that's
great way to
literally what
promote
it
your
is.
store. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. And as for earlier videos, I mean, wow, listen, I'm nearly coming up to 100 episodes of this series,
Mm.
and, I
Well done.
watched the
Very
first
well
one
done.
back. Thank you. I watched the first one back, the other day, and it's, a case of, hello, welcome to, My Collecting Life, a series about" and honest to God, the camera work was shocking. It wasn't a great camera, it wasn't a great sound, but you progress and you become more comfortable in front of the camera and
Yeah.
yeah, we can all say that about our first videos. I mean,
Yeah.
but, it's all good. But, so how long have you had your channel then? Has it coincided with the amount of time you've had your toy store or not
Oh
really?
no, 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 no.
No?
I think it's probably about 3 years.
Wow. I would have thought you having your own toy store that you would have probably done it a little bit, well, yeah, because I mean, YouTube wasn't a thing back then, was it? I mean, I thought as soon as
No,
YouTube would have come onto the scene, you might have been in there and sort of like promoting it. Do you think that would have made any difference at all to your business or not really?
possibly. I was very late to the YouTube. um, to the YouTube scene, and
Yeah.
I do feel like it blew up and died off a little bit before I came into it.
Right.
But yeah, I'm just trying to look now to see what my first video was. But yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
a fair old while ago. Oldest, there we go. Oldest, 2 years ago. So
It's
it's
not
not
that long ago.
it's coming up on 3 years.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
it goes quick, doesn't it? I mean, I'm coming. Well, I'm starting my third year now, so I'm into my third year. So next March will be my fourth year and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised I've made it this long. To be honest, because I didn't think I was going to be lasting very long at all. I never. I always worried about how I would react to things and stuff like that. And yeah, it's all right, isn't it? You take the rough with the smooth. You laugh off the criticism.
yeah, yeah.
Not everybody's going to like what you do, which is fine. It doesn't bother me at all.
It's
I think
funny.
most.
I think the biggest criticism I tend to get is your intros are too long. You know, my musical intros at the beginning. It's like, well, if you can't sit through 50 seconds of my
Yeah,
intro, then
yeah,
you
no,
don't
that's fair
deserve
enough.
my 20 to 40-minute video.
Fair play, fair play. Last couple of questions then. What gives you that toy collecting buzz?
Finding stuff that I've not seen before.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. And that's why we haven't even touched it, have we? The Godzilla collection that I
No,
bought again just over 2 years ago, or coming up on 3 years ago, because that coincides with when I started YouTube.
okay.
Um, yeah, the big buzz for me with that was all this stuff that I've never seen before.
And I
And
bet you get a lot of that, don't you? Doing what you do.
yeah, I do.
Yeah,
There's always something that, and when I do see something that I've never seen or heard of before, I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. This is fantastic. But
yeah,
for me to be doing this as long as I have done and never come across it before, it, yeah, it might not be amazing, but it's got to be hard to find. Otherwise, I would have
yeah,
come across it before. And yeah,
yeah.
I love finding something new like that.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Last question then. What does your collection mean to you?
It's a hard one, isn't it?
Well, no, not really. Have you seen any of my Star Wars quizzes?
I have actually, yeah.
Apparently, they're tough questions. I thought this one was
Now,
relatively easy.
about a year ago, this is totally off topic, but about a year ago, I had this idea that I thought was totally original to me to start putting a quiz together. And I started
Right.
teasing in my videos that I had something special coming and this, that, and the other. And I was working on this something special. And then someone just, I think it was Gap, he just said in my live chat one day, he said, you should check out Stuart. He does a fantastic Star Wars quiz. And I just read the comment and I was just like, quiz? What?
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Oh, now I feel bad.
So
Now I feel bad.
I had a look. I was like, somebody already does it. Oh,
That is the thing, isn't it? It really is difficult to try and get and do something that other people
it
don't
is.
do.
It is.
And
Yeah. I
listen,
honestly thought I'd found something original.
oh god, no. No, 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 no. Look, listen, if you want to do a quiz, mate, you crack on. I don't own the rights. I don't own anything.
Oh, I
You
know.
know,
I know.
it's,
There's
you know what I
probably other
mean? It's,
people out there that do it anyway. There
yeah,
probably is.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's,
it was just the fact that it happened within a few weeks. It was sort of like just as it was about to be born.
oh no,
And then I
God. Oh
discovered that it
wow.
wasn't what I thought it was because someone else was already doing it. I was like, oh, and just like a balloon being burst.
Oh no. No, no, no. Oh no,
So
God.
yeah, sorry. What does my collection mean to me?
I don't know. That's what I asked you.
Yeah,
That's what,
joy,
yeah, yeah, that's, yeah. Joy.
joy, fun. The
Yeah.
time you can just look at it and you'll remember where you picked certain bits up, where who you got them from. If you were gifted them, even better. Not because you got it from no, but because there's that
Yeah.
connection there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, no, it does mean a lot. And I've been doing a bit more with Gundam recently, and I think that's because of the time you get to enjoy putting it together. I really enjoy. I
Yeah.
really like that. So every one of those that's on your shelf, you've put time into. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the joy.
You've done all right,
Good
haven't
joy.
you? You've done all right for a few years collecting, haven't you? You've done all
Oh
right.
yeah, yeah,
Not done
yeah.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you can probably
Um,
tell I like the more colourful things.
yes, yeah. I've noticed that, but look, there's nothing wrong with that, and I think it's nice to have a little bit of colour. Yeah, I've got a bit of colour there. I like the old
Yeah.
DC multiverse, colourful. The
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Um, Gareth, that has come to the end of the conversation. I've got to say, it's been great chatting to you. Thank you so much for taking part. Where can people find you on social media?
You'll find me on social media at Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you search for Cosmic Toys, Cosmic Toy Man, or Cosmic Toy Shop, you are bound to find me.
Right. Okay, cool. What I will do is I will leave the links to your social the links to your social media platforms in the description below. Once again, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. Really do appreciate you taking the time out for doing this. It does mean a lot. And thank God I was nothing like Rum. I'm hoping I was nothing like Rum. I'm
No,
getting a bit worried now. I'm getting a bit worried. Good,
you'll
good.
have
Because
to
that'll
go
be
back
the
and
second
watch
time
that.
someone said that. You're just like Rum. No, I'm not.
Really?
I'm not.
No,
Yeah,
you're not.
yeah. But
You'll
I
have to
just
go
take it
back
in
and watch
stride.
that though, because it was still fun. He had us both performing the Doctor Who theme tune vocally.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, he gets you doing all sorts of weird stuff, didn't he, that bloke?
he
But,
does.
yeah,
He does.
he's a legend. He's a legend.
He is. He is. Yeah.
Anyhow, that's it for this conversation. I just want to say a huge thank you to you, the people who watch. It does mean a lot. Thank you so much, whether you're watching or listening. It is very much appreciated. Take care, stay safe, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.